Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining me on the Newsmaker line is the NCW Negdog Championship Wrestling Champion of the World, and he is a wrestling legend in his own right, the one and only Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra. Are you with me, sir?
I'm here 100%. Listen, just to make this interview, I just want you to know that I took my sailboat on the Gulf of Cuba.
Okay.
And made it all the way here. And I'm here at my nice residence that I have invested my great money into here in the United States. And, I'm here.
Very nice. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on there. From the Gulf of Cuba, huh? That's a new one. I don't think I've heard that one before.
Well, you got to call it like you see it, and it really is the Gulf of Cuba if you take back history and look at it. But
there you go. All right, so I introduced you as the heavyweight champion of the world of NCW, and that is very cool. Do you still enjoy getting in the ring?
I love it. I do wrestling events all over the United States, and I've done a couple in overseas in England for Pages,
Sarayas. Yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah, Sarayas, they're great people. And, and I still wrestle around here, and I'm proud to be the Negdog heavyweight champion. And it's that promotion, it started, you started from the bottom, now you're here. Well, listen here, this promotion, is really on fire. Everywhere we're going, we're drawing bigger and bigger crowds. I don't look past, I am, like I said, I am always and will be for representing Cuba. Mm-hmm. But I love representing Negdog Heavyweight Championship World Title because I won that world title and I've defended it now 2 or 3 times. And I got to show, that I don't know if you know that they're running at the Circle S Barbecue in Hudson, Florida on Sunday the 22nd.
Oh, I did not know that. What's going on there?
Well, they got a big event there with all kind of stars. I mean, I'm not just going to talk about. I am the best. You can't help it. If you're from Cuba, of course you're the best. But they got a big event there with a lot of great wrestlers, girls. They got a mix of a big live band. You name it. It's all at Circle S Barbecue in Hudson, Florida on Sunday, June 22nd. I think it starts at 2 p.m. But
awesome.
I've been watching this kid, and he's like 2 or 3-0. He's he's undefeated, and he caught my eye way before now that he's got the nerve to challenge me for the title. But he caught my eye. I looked at him, and I seen something in him because I always, I don't care how long I've been in the pro wrestling business. I always study all my opponents. So I looked at him. I said, this kid, it's not his fault that he's calls himself a Tangerine Dream.
Yeah, Tangerine. Ricky Love, yeah.
Tangerine Dream. Oh my God! And you look like a ghost out of Ghostbusters or something. You know what I mean? And but I don't take it lightly. But I know when it's all said and done on a trick is 22nd. At Circle S Barbecue in Hudson, that I will still remain myself as Negdog Heavyweight Champion.
Very good.
But you know how you got to teach these young guys. He thinks he's 2-0, 3-0. He thinks he's gonna take it to me bad and all that. I take all that serious. But what he doesn't realize is all the years and all the psychology and all that and how great the Cuban athletes are. And I can't help it. You American-looking ghost, you are going down on the 22nd. I would take you down and I would show you why Cuba is better than any country in the world.
There you go. But yeah, there's other great young stars in NCW as well. Of course, Nick Swift is one of them. He just had his debut with the NWA. Yeah, very
Nick
talented
Swift,
young man.
very talented. You got James Morrison, who's the last guy that tried. He's a very talented. You got some great Carolina, it's my cousin. She's a great wrestler. You got there's a bunch of them. There's other girls there. You got from NWA, the name
Natalia Markova.
Yeah, very good talent. Hockey, you know what I mean?
There's a lot of great. Absolutely, there's a lot of great young talent out there. I did want to ask you, what do you think about the changes in the style of wrestling from the old days to now, where if you watched it last night, you saw a match where they probably spent more time in the air than certainly on the mat. What do you think about the style of wrestling where it's become more high-flying and crazy?
Well, that's the part I don't agree with. And I've done my cross bodies off the top rope at a younger age and all that, and that's the one thing. But when you're like flip-flopping the whole match, and then the match ends, and it ends with something that all those other things you've done flying around should have been the end of the match. But I blame that on the people that are teaching these guys and women, that they think that to have a good match, you gotta fly around, do all kind of crazy stuff where your career will never last as long as mine, over 40 years, 50 years. But and they don't think of that, it's good. That's what I like about Negdog. They put on what a great wrestling event, and it's pro wrestling like it used to be. It's more old school than, mixed with some young talent, and that's why they're number one right now. They're doing great. I can't take it away from them. How can I? I'm their heavyweight champion. I mean, some man from Havana, Cuba, Fidel Sierra. Whew, I can brag about that all night long.
Very cool. You were with WCW for years and years and years, and you made a lot of appearances on various shows of theirs. They often tinkered with the Cuban Assassin name, though. Sometimes you were Cuban's Top Gun or Cuba's Top Gun, and they kind of tinkered with it. Was that a Turner thing? Did they not like the word assassin?
Yeah, they, especially after what happened here in the United States, 9/11 and all that, that sort of, at one time I was wrestling under a mask as a terrorist. They took that right away. We can't do that no more.
Yep.
And then they go, the Cuban assassin, though, even it felt like was. And I said, what's wrong? That's, Cuban assassin. I'm from Cuba. I'm the Cuban assassin. I assassinate every wrestler I wrestle with. I beat them 1, 2, 3. Hey, that's the way it is, but that's not the way they looked at it. So it was a company decision. And what are you going to do? Say no when you're making really good money?
Absolutely. And I mentioned this last time, but I mention it now. I love the stuff you guys were doing in 2000 because it was like there was two WCWs. There was the Saturday Night Show, which was classic wrestling, and you were part of that with Jim Duggan, and it was a fun, old school style wrestling show. And then, of course, you had whatever they were doing on Monday and Thursday nights.
Yeah,
but
I can tell you a story about what happened with that.
Sure.
I was wrestling Duggan, and we had it going. I was wrestling him for I forgot who threw the TV title in the garbage, and he pulled
Scott Hall.
Yeah, and so me and Duggan, we took it to another level, to a level where the rating on a Saturday night TBS show was 3.4.
Wow.
Okay. On Monday night, they had nothing against Hulk Hogan, nothing against nothing. They did a 3.6.
Wow.
Well, you know what happened? Because that was so close, they cut me and Duggan's deal right out. That was it.
Yeah, if I recall, they made Saturday Night like a clip show
Yeah, because they didn't want any. If you got a rating, like that was like, and even Duggan. I just seen Duggan at the RiverCon, which was a great event. But we were talking about it. I said we had it so good. I mean, we'd wrestle in Orlando, wherever. We wouldn't even have to touch each other for 10 minutes because the people were USA and all that, and we couldn't understand. Ric Flair was the world champion there. He said, and Duggan came back from a match we had, and we had the people like going crazy in Orlando, packed. And Duggan just slung his 2x4 against the wall. Ric Flair said, "What's wrong with him?" I said, "What's wrong with him? You don't hear the people, and they won't let us. They won't let us do our thing. They won't let us draw them money. They won't let us, And it was sad that that's the way it came to, because let's face it, they didn't want Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Fidel Sierra, the man from Havana, Cuba, the Negdog heavyweight champion, drawing a higher rating than what the other people were drawing, like a Hogan or, so they right away snatched that,
Yeah. And it just was such a cool show because, like I said, you had whatever the new school was on Monday and Thursday, but then when you turned on you guys, it was a logically booked old school wrestling show.
Yeah.
Clear good guys and bad guys. And
Jimmy Hart was in charge, and Jimmy loved Ardell, and Jimmy Hart. I love Jimmy Hart. He always has done for me and fantasy so much good things.
Very good. Here is the question I'll ask you, if there is a short answer to it. I don't know if there is, but they did a documentary series on Vice last year. It was called Who Killed WCW? I'll just ask you that question. Is there any short answer on who was responsible for that whole thing crashing like it did?
It was more than one person, but I think they put a lot of blame on Jim Herd.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't only Jim Herd's fault, but they did put a lot, because he hired a lot of people. I mean, Christ, he was throwing that money out, but then so was Eric Bischoff, and so was, there's a lot of other people that threw money. Like, look at Eric Bischoff, got all the NWO and all that, snatched them all up from WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot of big money guys.
Yeah, so I'm not. I like Eric Bischoff. I don't got nothing against him, but he had a part of it too. That they felt like, okay, he hired all these guys that gave them triple the money, that they were making. And I know there was guys. God bless the late Curt Hennig was a very good friend of mine. And they made him such a good offer that Vince McMahon told him. He told him to go for it because there was no way he could pay him that money.
Yep. Oh, wow. Well, that's a really cool story. I appreciate that. Another promotion you work for briefly, and you did some shots, I wouldn't say you were there regularly, was ECW. And I don't think you get asked much about that, but I wanted to ask you about your time with ECW, and do you understand why so many years later after ECW closed, there's still this nostalgia about that style of wrestling? What did you think of working ECW?
ECW, because it was different than everybody else. They did all the wild stuff. They did all the craziness. They did everything you could think of. Barbed wire matches, fire matches, everything, guys diving off the second floor of a balcony, stuff that you would never see anywhere else. And it became, Fantasy and we weren't even on ECW TV.
Right,
but,
you just did the shows, right?
We did Fort Lauderdale, we did Tampa and all that. Well, in Tampa, we got on the mic, and just all out, they were started with the USA, and they started chanting, "She's a crack whore," And here, Paul Lee was like, they couldn't believe it, and we weren't on our TV, and it was just because of our characters. But and the next time they came to town, they booked us, so they told us we couldn't get on the mic, and I don't think they even played music for us.
Oh, wow. See, now that's really weird. Why wouldn't they want that? Why wouldn't they want you on TV?
Why wouldn't they give me a job then? But you know what I mean?
Exactly.
They had a certain crew of guys, and I don't knock them because it was a great crew. God bless the late Sabu, who put his body through so much. And it really hurt me when he passed away, but he put his body through heck. I seen RVD at the RiverCon. And I talked to everybody thinks he's my brother, Bill Alfonso, but he's like a brother, because we grew up together.
I was just talking. I'm going to stop you there. I was just talking to the promoter of Negdog Championship Wrestling, and I asked him, I said, so Bill Alfonso said to me in passing that he was your brother, and I said, I can't find anything that says that's a fact. And he said, let me look into it. And he said, no, not real, just a storyline or something like that. He's not really your brother?
No, here it is. Me and Fonzie was 12 and I might have been 15 or 14. And this is a funny story. Here I am fishing at the Hillsborough River, right 2 blocks from his house in West Tampa. And we're fishing, and all of a sudden I get bombed. Me and another guy are fishing. We get bombed by oranges. We're like, what the hell? So I run and I catch it. It's Fonzie. I catch first. And I didn't beat him up or not, but that's where our brotherhood began, because you got to think, here's Fonzie, 12, 13, and I'm 14 or 15 or whatever. And he came back. It was Thanksgiving Day. He came back, brought us turkey sandwich from home and all that. And then from then on, we became like best friends. We were like, and I went to Texas and all that in 1978, and I brought Fonzie with me, and he already had refereed a few outlaw show matches. That's what it was called back then here in Florida that I was on. And I went to wrestle for the Funks for a few shows, and it was the original Sheik, which was Sabu's uncle, against Terry Funk, and they put Fonzie as a referee. And from there, we went, I stayed in Texas, and Fonzie came home to Florida. Paul Jones had met him in Mid-Atlantic with me, and Paul Jones said that, and he got hired as a referee. And Fonzie's one of the best referees ever in this business.
Yes. And a great promo too, right down the middle, Daddy.
Right down the middle. And as a manager, he really took it to another level. So I can't take that away from him. Now, this business has some people knock this place or that place or whatever. I'm with Negdog. I'm the Negdog heavyweight champion because I love wrestling, defending that title. I earned it. I swam from Cuba to Florida, however you want to say it. The main thing is Negdog is starting to get more and more people's attention. And, the more attention you get, the more people are going to talk about you. And that's why I always say, when you start talking about other promotions, you could talk bad about them, good, whatever. You're just putting if I'm, let's say, championship wrestling for Florida, and I'm knocking this place or that place, all I'm really doing is putting more attention on that other place. And that's what I think is great about Negdog, is that we're just doing, hey, we're doing our thing, Promoter knows what he's doing. He's great. He knows he's got it mixed up with comedians, rock bands, rap, you know what I mean? And then you throw in the wrestling, and we have some good wrestling, old school wrestling, and a little bit mixed up with some younger talent. and he's got everything wrapped up the way it should be. And that's why I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And
one thing I love about Negdog is you can hear the kids in the crowd, the little ones, and they do not like you. You can hear them screaming,
and that's
"You idiot!"
Good. Hey, the kids love it. You know, I don't care. They hate me. They hate me. You know what? I've been hated, but the bottom line is I'm still their champion, and I will remain their champion. And there's nothing the United States of America can do about it. The Cuban is the Negdog heavyweight champion. And, and now I got all these people coming after me. And it's just going to draw more and more people. And I think because of my experience in this business of wrestling, beating Ric Flair, wrestling the hour draws, wrestling Carlos Colon, beating him, wrestling so many people all over the world that I think I'm a big asset to Negdog Championship Wrestling.
Definitely. You give a level of credibility to it.
It gives it that credibility because they're looking at a legend as the world champion. And who's going to be the guy that ever takes it off me? It ain't going to be the Tangerine Kid, the white gringo, the cracker boy, the comes from some stinking town in Florida. He ain't going to beat me for the title because in Hudson on the 22nd, like I said, I'm defending that title. And kid, you bring everything you got. And I'm not taking it lightly, but when it's all said and done, the Cuban assassin will still remain the Negdog heavyweight champion. You could take that to the Bank of Cuba.
Absolutely. The Bank of Cuba. I love it. I just got a couple more questions for you. I mentioned to you at the beginning of our conversation that I had you on last to talk about Paragon Pro Wrestling, and that it didn't last too long, but it was pretty cool. It was nationally broadcast on Pop TV, which later had TNA or Impact Wrestling as it was.
Yeah.
And you were a part of that behind the scenes and on camera.
Yes, sir.
Any thoughts of Paragon and why was it so short-lived?
Well, I got respect for the owner of Paragon, but I question a lot of stuff. I was part behind the scenes with the grappler Lynn Denton.
Lynn Denton, yes, sir.
Yeah, and then they brought in some other people. Can't think of his name right now, but he was in WWE.
Gangrel?
No, Gangrel was a great part. He what a talent. Can never take it. God, I got his name. I hate when I can't remember somebody's name. Oh, man. But anyway, then they brought him in, but then I could tell that he sort of wanted to take... Me and Lenny were calling the shots back then with Jeff, the owner, permission. And I think if he would have, he was just... I don't know what the deal was there. Was he doing it for a tax write-off because he started doing some crazy stuff? Then, because me and Lenny were so close, he sort of let me go. But then hired another friend of mine, was Joey Jackson, great guy, who was just as good as close with Lenny as me, if not even better. And then, then they started running. They were doing the taping in Vegas, and they started doing the taping in Oregon. And I think what he did, what happened is, when you start, you haven't got yourself already set at Paragon, and now you're trying to run Portland with a different name.
Yeah.
And, so I think, these people, some people got a lot of money, but they don't know how to invest it or do the right thing. If you got a good crew, and I'm talking, Lynn Den's got a hell of a mind for this business. I think I do. I think Joey Jackson does. Matt Stryker, I think it was the guy's name.
Matt Stryker. There you go. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
good guy. Good guy. I got nothing against him. But he wanted to go above our heads. That's my philosophy on it. But I just think if he would have stuck to the way and not try to spend so much money, and I mean, he had a guy. I don't know if you've seen the big guy I was managing,
Tyshawn Prince. Yes,
yeah,
I was going to ask you about him.
What a talent, bro!
Yep.
What a talent! That guy with me, he could have been the world champion, and he would have got snagged by WWE with me because that's how big and good he was for a guy that size.
He was big and he could move. He was good.
Yeah, and he didn't have that many years in the business.
Whatever happened to him?
I think he's married, and I think he's got kids, and then how that goes, and then. So I don't know if the wife wants him gone all the time. I don't know what happened. I just know he was a heck of a talent. It could have gone a long way, especially with my guidance.
So I wanted to mention this to you here. We will circle back to NCW because I want to ask you about the women there because it's a completely new world for them. But recently I interviewed Frank Dusek, and one of the things we talked about was the Sportatorium in Dallas. And I know you worked there throughout the years, including for Global on ESPN. Any thoughts on why somebody like me would look at a place like that many people look at as a dump that work there, but we look at it with this reverence that it was this great place?
It was. It's a legendary place. I had my first territory match there against Dale Valentine, which is one of the Freebird, Buddy Roberts, with Johnny Valentine in his corner. And in 1978, I got sent there by Rocky Johnson, God bless his soul, who was a big mentor of mine, besides Hero Man 2 and all that. Ada Johnson, The Rock's mom and dad, and Ada and King Curtis helped me get booked in 1978 in Dallas, Texas. And from that point on, they sent me there. I did whatever I was told. I do what a lot of guys don't do these years. I shake everybody's hand. I'm a heel outside the ring, but I know how to be a professional inside. And I know I have to like it and make money. And that's the bottom line. But in that Dallas territory at that time was Blanchard owned the San Antonio part, and Paul Bosch owned the Houston part. And so you would work this many days for the Von Erichs, this many days for Kelly Blanchard's dad. And then Friday, you knew Friday was always great, man, because you worked for Paul Bosch. And I'm not knocking nobody else, but Paul Bosch was one of the, next to Don Owens in Portland wrestling, Paul Bosch is the best payoff man in the business.
Houston, Texas. There you go. Yes, sir.
And I'm going to tell you one, and I hate giving away, but everywhere else in the whole United States, if you wrestled, let's say somebody got hurt, somebody didn't make it, and you wrestled, you get an extra little bit of money. Paul Bosch, if you made $150 that night, you worked a second time, you got $300. Wow. And I found that so respectful of him. And such a, you know what I mean? You know, a lot of the boys these days, and I'm talking about all over, and I'm not going to name it, but they mess up their own self. They go knocking other promotions and all that, but then they go calling that promotion wanting to come back to work for them or whatever. I know it's happening with Negdog that guys think they left and now they think they're just going to open the door. So, yeah, come on back in. Yeah, now that you see that we got everything on the road. No, that ain't the way it works. And I'm glad that the promoter of Negdog Championship Wrestling sees it that way, because you don't burn bridges. You know, and And believe me, I burned some few bridges and had to learn the hard way. Man, why is this? I'm not being used because, whatever. But I love Dallas. And I loved working. Got to work David, Kevin, Jerry, whatever. God bless all those kids. God bless them all, And heck, I was with Mike Von Erich on a tour, and 2 months later he committed suicide. We were in Japan together with the late Black Bart. I was like, we had to tell him, man, you got to fight back. You got to, you know what I mean? Because Japan would eat you up if you didn't fight back.
Yeah, I was the last interview of Black Bart, as a matter of fact, and what a great human being.
He was the best. God bless his soul. Him and Ricky Sanchez, we all had such great times. Barbarian, Todd the Grappler, we all had such great times with Black Bart, and we could get him going, but he was such a great guy, and I really. There's so many of my fallen brothers and sisters that I really, Sensational Sherry, all that, they were so great and they were so good and so, you know what I mean? Yep. And some of them don't get the respect they deserve because, and I hate that because God bless, if they did one thing wrong in one place, now they're a bad person, but they did everything else good in the other places. It just isn't right,
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you look behind me on over my shoulder, if we were on camera, you would see that I have a box frame with autographed Black Bart book and a Curt Hennig signed thing over my shoulder. So a lot of the guys you're mentioning here are guys I met in person and just quality people, and I was blessed to interview some of them. Not Curt Hennig. He was gone before I was fully going.
Curt would call me his wingman. Curt's first sellout in Oregon was against me. In Portland, Oregon.
In Portland, Oregon. Well, that was early on, yeah.
Yeah, and so then he went to Vince McMahon, and then he came back, and I said, Curt, you realize Vince sent you back here to Don Owens Portland Wrestling, but you realize he's just grooming you to come back for him. And then in between all that, we drew some good money, with Curt. With me and Rip the Crippler, the late Rip the Crippler Oliver, and the late Dynamite Kid and all that. And we drew some good money with those guys.
Absolutely.
Against, Playboy Buddy Rose that turned babyface and Curt Hennig, God bless. Curt was so good back then. That's why I knew, I said, Curt Hennig will become one of the biggest names and be one of the best because he was so good. I mean, everything he did in the ring was so smooth. And God bless, I miss him so much. I love him. As I'm talking to you, I'm looking over to my right, and for each day each year since he's passed away, I got a little mini bottle of Jack Daniels because his deal was take some Jack Daniels and gargle it. Yeah, and God bless, I loved him so much, and his wife Lanice, and he's got his son Curtis that I think they should have used him better in WWE, and his son Hank. And I haven't met his daughters, but I met Hank. I seen Lanice and Hank at last year's Herb Simmons does a deal, and I've seen them there, and it was so good to get to see them at Waterloo.
There you go.
Jerry Briscoe does that, and it was so good to see Lanice and give me a big hug, and there was some little bit of clarity because Curt passed away, and God bless, we found them, and we were the ones staying next door and knocked on his door.
Oh man, I did not know that.
Yeah,
that
was a lot.
2003, yes sir.
And because like I said, from the Portland, Oregon days, before that, I took him to Puerto Rico. He wrestled Carly Colon. Never did an angle with him, never like that. All he did was an interview in English, and I transferred it in Spanish, said what he was saying, and then they played it, and Carlos Colon showed a match of Curt Hennig versus Hulk Hogan, but they spliced it, so all you could see was Curt Hennig beating the hell out of Hogan. And that first match with Carlito Caribbean Cruz, you want to call him that, Carly Colon at the time, it drew over 8,000 people.
In Puerto Rico?
In Puerto Rico.
Yeah, he's back. He's going to be back on the market soon too, Carlito, because he just
I just seen him at the RiverCon in St. Augustine.
He looks fantastic too.
Can I say something about that RiverCon? I want to say that Sam and everybody involved with the RiverCon, they treated everybody so good.
Wow.
All the wrestlers, from the big names to mid names to semi-mid names to whatever. And I just had the privilege, you're going to laugh at this, and I want to thank them because they treated everybody first class. But I had the privilege that here I am walking. I see my wife talking to Ric Flair, somebody else, and Ric Flair says, "Where's Cuban at?" She says, "Right there coming behind you." He goes, gives the guy that's taking his luggage to the room, gives him a $50 tip. Put my stuff in the room. Come on, big man, we're going to the bar. And we went straight to the bar. And there's people that talk bad about Flair. I will never speak bad about Flair. And the God bless Kevin Sullivan got me my first big run in WCW with some good money. And they called me from Amarillo. I was in Portland. And it was really good money. I wasn't under a contract. I wish they would have gave me a contract. And I'm so grateful for that. But Rick, as always, I don't care people that don't like him, whatever. He's always treated me good. And so I can't knock somebody that's always treated me good.
Very good. You mentioned Fantasy, your wife, and she was great. She was great as a manager. It still is. Still is. But I wanted to say that was the role of the female wrestler. The female in wrestling back then was you were a valet. Now the girls are almost as much a part of the show as the guys are, including Negdog.
If you call Fantasy a valet, she'll fly through the store to beat your ass.
I'm so sorry. If she hears me, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to offend you. Okay, good.
Because she refers to herself, and she is a manager, not a valet. Valet is those girls that wear skimpy outfits, and Fantasy is very serious about everybody she's ever managed. She managed Curt in Puerto Rico. She managed Barbarian. She managed the Nasty Boys in Puerto Rico, besides managing me and my whole, since the 90s in my career. And she is truly the first lady of professional wrestling. It was her birthday yesterday. What a great time.
29 again.
29 again. You got it. She just turned 29 again.
There you go. But women now
in the world. Got the best mom in the world. And we had such a great time with my friends Cal and Anna came over with us for her birthday dinner, and it was a blessing. It was God is good.
Excellent. Well, Negdog Championship Wrestling just crowned their first women's champion. It is Natalia Markova. She is a very pretty girl, but she's also a very good wrestler. What do you think of women now getting in there and doing it just like the guys do and wrestling just as hard as the guys do?
Well, okay, this girl that you just said, I have trouble pronouncing her name. First time we met her, we were at a show by Orlando, and me and Fantasy gave her a ride back. She was somewhere in Florida here, in our neck of the woods. And she has made a big name for herself. She's from Russia, but she speaks English very well, and she is a very good wrestler. But I think the women uh, league these times. That's you look at all these shows from WWE to AEW to you could put the women on last when and they'll carry the show.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not, I don't care what you've seen for the 2 hours and a half before that. The women these days are so good, and there's so many great ones. I mean, I got Carolina Cruz. It's my cousin that's gonna be at Negdog on the 22nd, and there's so many. I can't name them all. There's so many of them.
Beautiful.
I go back to the times of when, and we seen Lita with Trish Stratus at the River Con the year before, and we said, because of that time, that's when Fantasy met Lita, and she was just training to become a wrestler at that time. And I remember, and I said, man, Lita, you're gonna make it to be, you're gonna make it big in this business, and she did. And Trish Stratus did it because she had the coaching of Ron Hutchinson and all that. And I just think that's the whole deal is how you're brought up in the business, how you're taught to respect what you do in this business. And there's just a lot of great women wrestlers these days that are stepping up to the plate.
Absolutely, and Negdog has got some of the best, and I can't wait to see more of them on June 22nd.
So I got to say it one more time. That Tangerine Dream, whatever you want to call your white Ricky Love, your white American trash, I just want you to know that that's what you are, American trash. And I'm coming from Cuba. Fantasy will be along with me. And we're going to show you why Cuba is so much better than the stinking United States of America, because the United States of America ain't good for nothing. So we're going to show you, and it's going to all be, I'm going to defend that Negdog heavyweight title and show you why, at my age, and as a veteran that I am, I still can beat a young punk that's got 3-0. He hasn't lost a match yet. Well, he's fixing to lose his first one. So I suggest everybody be at Circle S Barbecue in Hudson, Florida, June 22nd. Bell time, I believe, is 2 o'clock. A rock band, comedian, you name it. It's a mixture of everything, and I expect a sellout crowd.
It's a whole entertainment experience, and I can't wait to see it. I'll have links for people to buy tickets on the interview page. I want to thank you for taking the time to do this with me. I have one final question for you. Not sure how you're going to answer it, but it's simple. What legacy do you hope that the Cuban Assassin leaves on the world of professional wrestling?
The legacy of that I did wrestling the way I wanted to do it, that I did wrestling, not old school, not new school. I always elevated myself, mixed myself with everything, and I want everybody to know that whatever I say it, but that I want to be respected and remembered as Fidel Sierra, the Cuban Assassin, with Fantasy. We're big and great for this business, and especially being the Negdog heavyweight champion.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. I thought I ticked you off about 10 years ago because I'm a Trump supporter, and I think I made you mad. But I'm glad we can talk again.
No, you know what? Hey, everybody, you know what I mean? It ain't your fault you're a Trump supporter. No. Hey, everybody's got their own beliefs, and I don't. That's why I don't get into the politics that way. I'll just joke with you just now. Everybody, if you believe in Trump or if you believe in it, that's your business. You know, I don't like to get into political argument. You know. Good.
I still thought I made you mad, so if I did, I apologize.
No,
but I'm glad.
Make me mad, believe me. Because
and you certainly have my respect.
I might have acted, or I might have said, or I might have whatever. But it's, I could say it like this now. It's you Americans that voted them in. I live in Cuba, and I love Cuba, and Cuba will always be better than this the country.
All right, man. I thank you for taking the time to do this. You have my utmost respect, and I will let you know online when I get this up and type it up and get it out there for you guys.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, Rush.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
Yo, Maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey, guys. We had a lovely conversation. First lady. Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Oh, my God. You win. Love being interactive.
I was not shooting. Yeah, I almost missed my pants. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. Let's go. I see my language. You're going to go to the shop. No. Into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Champion. Arrogant.
Jesus makes me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So lonely without you.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional
Made
wrestling.
in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire. I'm not going to talk to you, dummy.
We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling
Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge with this whole. You're where it's at. You better recognize who's the best. Make sure you tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer and knock down your door and turn it on for you. Or else I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line.
Have a nice day.
It's showtime!
Don't forget to like and subscribe.